So let's just be clear. We're talking about exit polls at this stage after the, here in Germany, polls for the 2019 European elections have now closed, so those exit polls are available. Angela Merkel's Conservatives are ahead. So let's run through the figures. So, as I say, these are based on interviews with voters as they actually leave polling stations. The actual figures will come later this evening. So this is what we know. This is what we are being told so far. Angela Merkel's CDU-CSU take 28%. That's down 7.4 percentage points. Centre-left SPD come in at 15.5%. That's down 11.8 percentage points. The environmentalist Green Party look to take 22% of the vote. That's a big increase for them, more than 11 percentage points. And the far-right populist Alternative for Germany, the AfD, that's 10.5%, a 3.4 percentage point increase for them. Then we have the free market FDP looking at about 5.5%, and the Left Party also at 5.5%, at least 13% for other parties here in Germany in this European election. Let me just stress for you, those are exit poll results, not yet based on actual ballot counts. So let's go through those figures with DW's chief political correspondent, Melinda Crane. Melinda, not looking as bad at this stage for Chancellor Merkel's CDU-CSU.
Well, she will be very concerned about the SPD figure. That is her junior coalition partner, as we heard from Kate Brady. And the fact is that if this is an earthquake for the Social Democrats, and it most certainly is, we will certainly see some pressure to change leadership for that party, and also possibly to look at an early end to this grand coalition that many, many Social Democrats feel has essentially undercut the Social Democratic Party's ability to have a clear standing, a clear profile in voters' minds. The SPD has actually shaped a number of aspects of policy in ways that normally would be favorable for the SPD clientele, including minimum wage, but other issues as well. And yet the voters clearly don't give them credit for that. The other point to make here in terms of the Christian Democrats is, yes, they're closer to 30 than to 20, and our correspondent, Michael Küffner, reminded us that essentially they want to see themselves edging closer to 30. Nonetheless, this is a big drop from where they stood in the last EU election, and this is one of the lowest national showings they have ever had. The big cheers that you heard there were actually about that state election in the city-state of Bremen. They were not necessarily about that 28%. This is an okay showing, but what the real message that we saw in those numbers is change. We're seeing a massive drop-off in support for these mainstream big tent parties, as Kate Brady reminded us, and we're seeing a phenomenal upturn for a party like the Greens. Less so, interestingly enough, at the moment for the right-wing nationalists, the AfD. Many people had thought they would make a stronger showing. This isn't all that positive for them. It's up compared to 2014, but frankly, that was the first election they ever contested for the EU. So, all in all, what we're seeing is a very strong message for voters saying they don't want business as usual. They want something different. And clearly, a lot of voters saying we want a clearer message on climate. They say, many, the majority say the EU is the place where climate policy needs to be made if it's going to be effective. And here, a very, very strong showing for that Green Party.
We're going to come back to those themes. I suspect across the evening, the need or the calls for change and clear messaging. For now, though, Melinda Crane, Chief Political Correspondent, thank you. Those are our first exit polls of the 2019 European election. They're not actual results yet. We'll go to the Parliament's main home, Brussels now, where we find Max Hoffman. Max, as those exit poll results are out, what are you seeing and hearing?
Yeah, Phil, well, we have the right person right here to comment on those exit polls. When he came here, Philipp Lamberts, who's one of the Spitzenkandidaten of the Greens, one of the lead candidates, he seemed rather, not extremely happy, but his mood has improved. 22% for the Greens in Germany, exit polls so far. What's your comment on that?
Well, it's hard for me to beat. I always wanted to beat the Germans in my constituency in Belgium. So, well, the bar is quite high. We don't have the results for Belgium yet. We'll see. But I'm delighted, of course, because everything that we are hearing from various member states so far point to a surge in the green results. And that, to me, gives us at least a strong mandate for change in the European policy. So count on us to use this lever that the European voters are giving us to try to really influence EU policies from now on.
So a small correction, by the way, here. Not Spitzenkandidat, but group leader. We talked so much about the Spitzenkandidat. Still very important, of course. Now, you mentioned, of course, climate change, the topic. Do you think you would have been, the Germans at least, would have been this successful if this topic hadn't bubbled up the way it did with Fridays for Future, with Youth for Climate on the streets all year long?
It helped improve a pre-existing trend, because there's no denying that the fact with the new leadership of Annalena Baerbock and Robert Habeck, the Green Party in Germany has taken a new takeoff, quite obviously, and we see that across the country. So indeed, the Fridays for the Future have helped in that, in making people aware of the urgency of change. But quite obviously, it's not enough, because, well, if there had not been a strong Green Party to start with, this popular energy would have found no way to express itself in politics. And it's because there was a Green Party in very good shape in Germany that indeed we could take advantage of that.
Why are the German Greens in such good shape, as you put it, and in many countries they're just fighting for survival?
Well, not all countries, but I would say there's an area in Europe, I would say the Benelux, Germany, even France and Scandinavia, now the British Isles as well, including Ireland. Well, there you can see that the Green parties over the years have managed to become, I would say, full-fledged parties, in the sense that we are no longer seen as niche parties dealing with just protecting the trees and the birds. We are about, well, giving a future to all societies. And that is increasingly being felt. And that means being perceived as competent on the economy, on social issues, on civil liberties, etc., and not just on climate. And I think that we are perceived as people who grasp the complexity of the thing and can help be catalysts for change.
Well, complexity might be a good word to talk about, because it seems that many people in Europe are looking for easy answers, and that's why the right-wing populist parties are set to make big gains, bigger than the Greens, at least when we're hearing the polls. How are you going to deal with a very strong right-wing populist faction in the next European Parliament?
Well, first, I do see that in Germany, for instance, the Greens seem to be more convincing than the far right.
And 10% more?
Voila, and that's a very good thing. And that's the case in a number of countries. Now, indeed, the national populists are going to be strong in the next European Parliament, but not strong enough to block the institutions, believe me. I do believe that the pro-Europeans will remain a big majority of the European Parliament. Now, the big question is, will those traditional parties who used to rule Europe in a very traditional and mainstream way, will they be receptive to this demand for change that is coming from society and that we are going to carry in this House?
Philipp Lambert's always a pleasure, and looks like we're going to be able to talk to Philipp Lambert some more with the new European Parliament. Back to you, Phil.
All right, Max Hoffman, for now, thank you.